over here.
The 4 dust samples that you used in your analysis, could you just describe how that dust was collected and when it was collected, please?
Oh, this is 4 different, well, I suggest. Quite frankly, this is very meticulously described in the paper. And I must admit that I, as a university scientist, was against when we were writing the manuscript. I thought this was ridiculous. Why to put all this information in the paper, how the dust was collected? Never in my lifetime have I been accused of falsifying data. I would never do such a thing. So why should that go in? I wanted it out. But my fellow writers insisted that this should be in, and I appreciate that. I think I would please read the paper because it's all meticulously described in there. Yes? Further technical question preferentially? There's one in the rear.
Yeah. When was Nano-thermite first produced and,
Yeah. Frank, would you answer this? Oh, no, Mike, okay. Well, maybe you can use that one.
I can't sure give you the exact dates, but there were several papers published on Nano-thermite, often called superthermite, prior to 9/11. Prior to 2001, there were several papers published, been going on for at least 4 years, and the information in the papers was, I believe, not fully descriptive of how they did it, because there is a graph showing nanothermite being exploded and demonstrated in the differential scanning calorimeter, and the peak comes off a little bit further up, higher temperature. I believe that they never published their best recipes, but they were certainly publishing material about this before 2001.
Maybe I could add here that the earliest research on this started in around 1990, eventually in the late 80s, when people discovered how to make these materials by nanotechnology. The microphone is... Maybe we can use this one.
I'd just like to re-ask a question I asked earlier about the percentage of iron microspheres in the dust, because this group didn't get to hear that question.
Yeah, the question was how much actually iron spheres are in the dust. And the number is 5.84%. And this was accomplished by the J.R. Lee Group. I told you earlier, this was a private company, actually in an insurance dispute or a case or problem, an insurance problem. The R.J. Lee Group was investigating and mapping out the dust. They found a content of 5.84% of the microspheres. Now, in ordinary building dust, you expect 0.04% of iron spheres, and which means that they're abundant by a factor of 130 to 150 times more iron spheres in the World Trade Center dust. And this alone should merit a new investigation into the 9/11 event.
Just wondering, what is the best proof for when we're talking about this to people who have some idea but very little scientific background, and we want to talk about the proof that you found that the red chips are actually unignited explosives rather than something by coincidence that, for example, some people said it was red paint. I mean, there's been various claims made, and they're probably not scientifically backed up, but what's the best thing we can say when someone says, well, you know, what's the proof? Is it the spectrograph analysis? Is it the reactivity?
Well, the reactivity, I'm sure Frank will eventually agree with me. The fact that these chips weren't properly selected, not all of them, some of them are reactive and produce iron means that the temperature, molten iron spheres, means the temperature in the reaction with this small chip, about 1 millimeter length, is beyond 1500 degrees. It's a proof that there's thermitic material. But if people have never heard about anything, I would point to them that there were 2 airliners with 3 skyscrapers, so you don't have to be a scientist to count to 3.
Okay, we're going to wrap up the questions. I've just got some food to move for people that have brought the catering. There's still quite a few pies and stuff left, so I want to move that stuff because it's going to be their cost if we don't sell it. So we've got to be out here by 11. So we just have another 3 or 4 questions.
Your thermite is aluminium and rust. You've got an aluminium aeroplane and a 30-year-old steel building, which would be presumably a bit rusty. What's the possibility that...
Well,
There are several kinds of thermite, but a kind of thermite that manufactures itself, I don't think exists. The aeroplanes in one place, the rusted in another. How is it all going to be finely divided and mixed together? And even then, if it was finely divided and mixed together, it would be thermite. But what we've found is not thermite, it's Nano-thermite. Minute little particles that only a few molecules wide. There's no possibility that this is self-manufactured.
Yeah, but I have, if you will allow me to answer this question once again, I've heard it many times. And usually, just because the ingredients are there doesn't make the meal. You know, matches, ordinary matches, they're made out of wood, out of sulfur, a little phosphorus, a little ground glass powder, and a binder. Okay, this is the 5 ingredients you need to make a box of matches. Imagine you have a campfire, okay? And in the evening, you throw into the campfire some sulfur, some phosphorus, some grounded glass, some pieces of wood, some binder. Would you expect to find a bottle of matches in the ashes the next morning? No. No, you cannot form an energetic material at higher temperatures. The ingredients will not find together on their own.
Yeah, hey, I was wondering, how many people do you think were killed in the World Trade Center? I was reading this one paper that Ralph Renett put forward. He believed that the total amount of people killed in the World Trade Center was much, much higher than what we've been told. He believed that they picked up in this report that said there was like 100,000 or so body bags shipped to New York for the cleanup. And he also believed that the thermite might have been actually used to remove some of the bodies in the towers. What do you comment along those lines?